Okay.
Oh, hi, everyone. Welcome back to
Hi.
Talking Threadheads.
Hello.
Hey.
What episode is this, Nicole?
No idea. Make up a number.
It's season 8, season 2, episode 2.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Thank you for instructing me on that.
Yeah.
And we're back, and we are joined by our friend Wynn Kapit right now. Wynn, hello. Welcome to Talking Threadheads.
Hey, good evening. It's good to be with y'all.
We like to ask everybody sort of the same flavor of questions to get started. So we want to hear from you about how you got started going to Jazzfest. When was your first Jazzfest?
My first Jazz Fest was in 1986. I discovered Jazz Fest by the happenstance that LSU Dental School, where I was attending, and the reason I came to New Orleans was within earshot of the festival. And I got out of my car on the weekends to catch up because it was always the end of the academic year when the fest would come, and I would hear this cacophony in the distance when most of the year you wouldn't hear anything on Bayou St. John, and I was like, well, what the hell is that? And I go up to the 8th floor of the building and look down, and I see this enormous festival going on with all kinds of people, and so I learned about it. I didn't get to go to it during the years I was a student. I graduated in '85 and did a residency, and then that year I did get to go. So that was my first year, and I have gone every year since then.
So that's many. I can't even count. That's
Would
many.
Be 36.
Wow.
That's
What was
amazing.
that? Yeah, what was that experience like that first year?
The first year, I really didn't know what to think of it. I had never been to anything like that before. I had been getting exposed to New Orleans music sparingly while I was in school. I guess mostly at Mardi Gras parades, where you would really hear New Orleans music. And I guess that was most of my exposure. And then I went to the festival and saw, the jazz tent, the Economy Hall, and all the various different kinds of music. And being someone that always enjoyed music, I found it rather captivating. And I especially enjoyed the energy that was there. It's like the land of make-believe, where everyone is just happy to be where they are. Very little conflict, and people are just enjoying themselves, and it's just it was just a wonderful escape from every day. And so I grew to look forward to it. And as the years went by, I would go in at an increasing frequency. I probably have missed maybe a handful of days in the last 20 years. I didn't go every day initially, but I've gone virtually every day for about 20 years now.
So Nicole will tell you I like to go off script a little bit, so I'm going to go off script.
Okay.
What are 2 or 3 things that stand out to you as being different now at Jazz Fest as opposed to when you first started going back in 1986?
Well, it's physically much more constricted. There's a lot less space on the property than there used to be open spaces, and not every square foot was occupied by, a promotion tent or a sponsor or just a music stage. And so it was a lot more spread out. And I think just it was crowded. It didn't get really very crowded, I think, till the mid 90s. That's when I think the attendance really shot up, and it got to the point where it really got tight some days, much more so than it had been. And so the tenor of things, I think, changed about at that point. But I think it was much more laid back initially. Water was free. It was free Kentwood water.
Hmm.
There isn't anything free there now. And it might hinder me to some extent. It doesn't stop me, but it has stopped a lot of my friends from attending. And that in some ways is what led me to become interested in knowing who the Threadhead people are, the people on the chat board, because a lot of the people that I first went to Jazzfest with became disinclined, partly because of the expense and partly because they had been going since they were born.
So before we talk about the Threadheads, can you touch on a couple of standout performances you've seen in your 36 plus years of going to Jazzfest?
A couple of hundred.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. The network only gives us 20 minutes for these interviews, so that's why we have to be concise.
One of the early ones would be Rebirth with Kermit Ruffins in the Economy Hall in the late 80s, when the entire tent was on its feet and dancing, myself included. And I don't really dance for a whole lot, but it was moving. It really was moving. And I was somewhat dismayed about a year later when he left that group, because they were really incredible. There was Johnny Adams' last performance with Aaron Neville. Dave Bartholomew at age 80 something, standing up on the Acura stage and kicking ass for 75 minutes. And I just stood there with my mouth agape at this man's ability to perform at that age. I was totally in awe of him. I mean, I can go on. I remember just as a weird moment, sitting at the back of Acura one year and hearing Paul Simon in my right ear and Celia Cruz in my left ear, and trying to listen to both at the same time, which is completely impossible given the differences in their genres. But I was enthralled by the variety of things. I remember walking away from Simon and Garfunkel's last set across Congo Square, where Drake was insisting that he was the fucking best repeatedly. And I thought, oh, we just went from, the great songwriters of the hippie generation, Simon and Garfunkel, singing about all things, that are kind and important to people. And then I walk into the next venue and this guy's, "You're the fucking best." I'm like, okay, well, I guess Simon and Garfunkel are done for today.
That's tremendous.
So but it just goes on and on. You could, walk around all the time. One of the things that I did before I had, so many people that I knew at Jazzfest, when my friends would go, I would go by myself. And I would go one day a year with the intent on speaking as few words as I possibly could the entire day, to just listen to everything and everyone around me. And I really enjoyed that experience. I did that a number of times, and it's different when you just shut yourself up and you just listen to all those around you and all the sounds around you. And I would like to try that again, but I know too many people.
Yeah, you need like a disguise.
Yeah, I might.
Honestly, though, I love that idea. I really do. I think that's great.
Like as a often solo traveler, or a person who spends a decent amount of time at music festivals flying solo, I recommend doing that. I love it. I love being able to call your own shots, follow your own, what speaks to you, experience it yourself. So I'm glad that you brought that up. But speaking of company, you mentioned the Threadheads. How did you end up? How did you get connected with the Threadheads? How did you learn about them? And what has been your involvement? Because you're very involved.
My initial involvement was my interest in the festival, in where it was going, what was coming up with it, and I guess being informed about the next year or the people involved. And so I noticed that there was a forum. And so I clicked on the forum, and I, discovered all these threads and all these people with some really curious names. And I read and I lurked and I lurked and I lurked for 2 or 3 years. I did register, but I never did post anything. But I was really taken by the fact that there was very little friction, and that people were very polite and very passionate about what they wanted, from their music and what was important to them. And they were very, very kind to each other. And I was intrigued by that. I discovered, and this is before you came to the festival, Nicole, that there used to be a camera set up in a trailer next to the Fado stage that would take photographs every minute. And you could stand there and take your photograph and then log in and find it. And so the Threadheads had set up a meeting where they would get their group photo taken. And so I knew about this, and I went, and I'm not as much nowadays, but in those days I was really fairly shy about just walking into a crowd and introducing myself. And so I really wasn't comfortable, and I kind of stood off to the distance, and I watched these people gather and get their photo taken. And after that, I went up and talked to a couple of them. I think one was Shaw and one was Bill from KC. I can't recall his last name right at this second. But I didn't really have that much of a connection. I developed more of a relationship with Neen and the Grids. There was such a penchant for people to know about shows at Jazzfest that they were constantly looking and searching for who was playing where and what. And I was very much into the music scene here at that point, and I always had Wavelength and Offbeat and Lanyap, and I would always go through it all. And so I realized that I had a lot of information at my disposal that the Threadheads would like to have. And so I started sending show information to Neen, and then after she stopped doing the Grids, with Chris. And that's how initially Chris and I got to know each other. And then from there we would meet up at Fest or go to some shows. And we went to one incredible show in 2004 at the Sanger that I'm sure he remembers very well, the Southern Nights show.
Oh, I think David Bowie was 2005, right?
No, David Bowie was 2004.
Okay.
I'm talking about the All-Star show.
Yeah, we were sitting like a row or two from each other. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also went to the David Bowie show with my wife and my cousin, but I didn't know that you were there.
I was there. Well, incredible show. Yeah.
And so it just kind of grew from there. I got to know some of the people. Very few of them were local. And then, in 2005, we had the group of the Threadheads started as Patry. As I was reading through it, I realized that a number of these people had been involved in a group called Pet the Cat, which had their own website, and there were people that were very interested in music and traveling and festivals, and that they had known each other for a while. And I was not part of that group really, but I did get to meet a number of them through the years. And they kind of melded into the Threadheads as time went by. But,
So if you had to pick, I'm going to limit you to one now, not three. If you had to pick one, doesn't have to be your favorite, but one memorable moment from a Patry or Threadhead Thursday, what would it be?
I mean, Threadhead Thursday for me personally was when Marcia Ball played, and the park was filled with maybe 500 or 600 people. Some people said more than that, but I think that's my guesstimate. And I felt good about, having taken it over from you and trying to do something to make a difference, for the foundation and increase exposure to people outside of the Threadheads, which was my particular take on it. That, if I was going to take it over from you, the only thing that I could make where I could make a difference was to make it known to other folks. And so that day was that day I felt good about it all.
Love that. That's tremendous. I love that.
So as I mentioned, or as we mentioned earlier, we just recently spoke with a friend of the Threadheads, Alex McMurray, and we asked him about his sea shanty project, and he mentioned that there is a well-known dentist that performs in this ensemble.
I've heard that.
I've heard this also, and I think it's time to reveal to the world that you, Wynn, are that dentist.
I am the one and the same.
You're like the secret sauce of the Valparaiso men's chorus.
I don't know about that, but I certainly enjoy being part of it.
So how did you get involved in that?
I won a one-time opportunity to sing in the Valparaiso men's chorus as a prize in the Threadhead raffle. And I've won some really wonderful things over the years. I won Grand Marshal Pass. I won a guitar that I gave to my son for his 10th birthday. Some years I didn't win anything this year, or some other years, but I've won some wonderful things. And so when I had this opportunity, I had never performed in front of people. I had learned music. I took lessons to play an electronic organ when I was in high school for a few years. So I had basic understandings of music, and certainly I listened to enough of it. But the idea that I was going to stand up with a bunch of people in the New Orleans music community who I was fans of, and stand side by side and sing with them, I really was intent on them not wanting to beat me, or just kick me out. And so I learned the songs. I spent quite a bit of time learning them, and I got to sing. And I guess I did a fair enough job where Alex said that I could come back and continue to do it.
Wow.
And I have done so.
How many shows total have you done?
I guess around 25.
Wow.
If I had to throw a number, it's been 8 years. We do roughly 3 or 4 a year.
So have you done any during the pandemic? Yeah.
We did one recently. It was outdoors in November. That was the first one we had done since the Mardi Gras of 2020. And but it was outside. And we have one coming up on the 25th of February, and that's indoors. And we'll see if that actually happens.
Where is that?
That's at Carnival, the old Siberia.
That's so cool.
So Wynn, I'm guessing that it's as fun as it looks like it is being in that chorus.
For me, it is. I mean, for 3 or 4 nights a year, I get to not be, Dr. Kapit. I get to, I stand around, with people who I enjoy listening to and who I admire and I sing. I remember one time Michael Service was standing next to me, and I'm like, how did I wind up standing next to Michael Service and singing? You know, and so it's very cathartic. You know, I get to bellow at the top of my lungs, and some of the songs are dark, and some of them are really silly, and some of them are just fun. But they're all different. And
do you guys do the same set all the time, or do you vary the songs?
well, Alex just calls off whatever, and you never know what he's going to do, and he'll mix up the arrangement or the tenor. And so you have to be on your toes. It's not like what's off the record every time. There are some songs that are very much like that all the time, but he will change it up. And I have great respect for what he does and how he does it, standing there and you know, watching him just do this spontaneously. It's really quite a gift to see someone have that ability. But you know, these are musicians. You know, I have innate senses for what I do. After 35 years, you know, I know exactly what I'm going to do it and how I'm going to do it and how it's supposed to go. And that's how those folks are. For me, you know, I'm just, you know, a guest in their world.
Do you ever, off the record, no one will hear this, do you ever sing any sea shanties to your patients?
Only the ones I don't like.
All right, last question. In terms of who you're looking forward to seeing at Jazzfest, maybe 2 locals and 2 bigger name acts. Who are you looking forward to?
Oh boy, I'm looking forward to seeing Margie Perez and Movello, because I have not been able to see her in that configuration, and I'd like to. Who else aside from everyone that I always see? I always like to see Irma. I mean, I just adore Irma, and you know, if I was continuing to do Threadhead Thursday, she was the guest of my dreams. That was the pie in the sky for the Thursday that we were going to follow Jazzfest. You know, if I had the money and could have made it happen, to be like, okay, everybody, leave Jazzfest and come to the park, and Irma Thomas is going to sing for free. So there's always Irma. I'm very much looking forward to seeing Playing for Change. You're not hearing a lot about them. I saw them maybe 10 years ago at Tipitina's, and that was a magical show. And I expect that will be the same at Fest. And I'm a big Randy Newman fan, and I'm looking forward to seeing him as well.
Will there be a Threadhead Thursday? Do you know?
I have no idea. I've been off the board a couple of years, and so I really don't know. I just saw Ken the other day, but we didn't talk about it.
Ken's very elusive. We've been trying to get him interviewed on here so we can hear the scoop on a lot of things, but no luck so far. So maybe he'll watch this and be shamed into
The formal challenge, show up.
yeah, show up or we'll talk about you. Yeah.
Where is the mayor?
Yes, that's right. What's he really doing?
Where did he go?
Hey, Wynn, thanks for being a part of this. This is great. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it. I hope you all did too.
Excellent.
I'm going to hit stop recording now. Hang on.